I'm going to do a quick demo of a full stack web application that I built. It's a clone of Couchsurfing.com. You might be familiar with it. It's an application where you can request to stay with people when you go travel. So my twist of it was basically where you could go and request a kitchen of somebody's house to maybe cook up a meal and also stay with them during your stay there. So right now I'm logged in as Bobby, who's currently accepting guests. I'm also logged in as Bear, who's accepting guests, but let's change that to not accepting guests and save it. Let's say Bear wants to go to New York. And he sees that Sally might be accepting guests, but Bobby is accepting guests. So let's go ahead and request the kitchen of Bobby's. We enter some dates and include a message, and we'll go ahead and send that. Once you send a message, you can view the conversation. And let's say I go to my profile. At this point, since the request isn't accepted, you won't see anything. And when we go back to Bobby's, you can see that there's a new message. And let's go ahead and click into that. And click into the message here. So Bobby can go ahead and respond and accept the request. Once he accepts the request and goes to his profile, he'll actually be able to see his upcoming guests. And if we go back to Bear's profile and refresh this page, we'll also be able to see Bear's next travel plans. And you can see that he has new messages here. And on this page, Bear will be able to cancel the request if he no longer wants to stay with Bobby. And then if we go back to Bobby's page and go back to the message, you'll see that there's no longer the request dates and it's just a regular messaging. The technology used for this application was Ruby on Rails for the backend with a Postgres database and React for the front end. Some things I learned and tried out this time was using the Google Places API and also a messaging system with notifications and basically a requesting system done with a calendar. One challenge I ran into was with the messaging system. I have two tables for the messaging system. There's basically a request table where it will be the initial message and all messages moving forward will be under the messages table. So the problem I had was sending that information from the back end to the front end. I actually had to find a way to basically compile all of the messages associated with one request and put that into one object, which I sent to the front end as a JSON object. Working on this project taught me a lot about React, especially about state and props. A lot of the times the component would render before I had props, so what I had to do in these cases was just make sure that I received the props before the page rendered, and so I would have a isLoading state, and if isLoading is true, then it wouldn't render anything, and once the component received all of the props that it needed to render everything, it would change isLoading to false, and then the whole page would render. One thing I struggled with this project was passing authentication around the app. And one thing I did notice was that I always needed a header on every single page that I was on. So what I did was every single page that I rendered, I wrapped in an app component. And in the app component, you actually had the header and whatever else would be rendered. So the header would show up every time. And since this app component is wrapping every other component, this page is where I did the Axios call to get the authentication of the user, and so that the user would stay logged in on every page that they visited. Overall, this project was challenging, but I had a lot of fun since I was able to build the whole app by myself from the beginning to end. Through building this app, I learned the importance of keeping application logic efficient, CSRF protection, how to build a notification, among others. Thanks for watching.